is in terms of community service. Here in Plain, we have what I would call, in my opinion, is a temporary community center, but we would like to see a better community center, and a community center, sorry, that is able to assist with some of the same training programs mentioned. We have the community department, and right now I am doing a course in cold soap process, learn to make my own soap. And we can have some more of those courses offered, but we would need a proper community center. We can offer courses in basketry, makeup, nail technicians, all those things could be trained. We would like a library in St. Andrew. And, with the provision of regular workshops to upgrade our skills, because it isn't everything that we leave school with. But there's always something out there new that we would like to be able to say, I can go to my community center and I can receive additional training.
This is what we're doing, living direct from St. Andrew and all that artists. Now we got some areas down here we can use that because on that old police station park there, you can put some stalls in there. We could get some kiosks there for the vendors. I might sell mangers, cashews, fat ports. Even me, my art shop, they got the art gallery there. I could bring all my art there. It'd be nice. They got some art there with Nifka and CF know me, everybody. Oh yes, old brand, you know me? But we want to bear St. Andrew down here more better upon your land. We could bring St. Andrew back, and we want to bring it back. St. Andrew got a room that we can use, all the East Coast, we could do it. Things are nice down here. I could bring all my artwork and make things happen. We got things planning. Everybody can make it. We got a long pond that we can stretch it there, but my trees there too. Some chaos 6 or 9. A man doing craft, a man doing fruits. A man doing baskets, a man doing pottery. Everything can happen down here because we had it down here already, we could do it back again. We want to bring back St. Andrew alive. Let me work together. Unity is strength. That we really can work with. Right, even that same, the building up, put it down pond, that already cascas grass, that bamboo hut, that I helped build with Julian Hunt. He said Julian Hunt, good man. I helped build that hut. I helped do that. We did the cascas grass, put the bamboo together. We had a sweet bread oven. That means we had baking sweet bread. We could do pie. You could do everything. That could want building back. That it could bring more unity in the community. It could bring a friendship, a love for the tourists and for the community people. That same hut that Julian Hunt do Long Pond. We want that back.
Hi, my name is Khalifa Andrews. I'm hailing from the best parish ever on this island, St. Andrew. White Hill, St. Andrew to be precise. I'm here to speak about my lovely parish where St. Andrew has been the breadbasket of Barbados for quite a while. You can never go hungry in St. Andrew. St. Andrew people are lovely people. They are loving and the hospitality is just on par. Everybody that comes to St. Andrew always talk about the hospitality. What I would like to see that is already happening in St. Andrew is the roads which are being developed. Thanks to this administration, a lot of roads, if you come in St. Andrew, you will see a lot of road under construction, which we are grateful for. Thanks to the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Transport and Works, we are grateful for. Where I'm living here in White Hill is one of the most recent road that has been under construction. It's still under construction, but thus far, what we have seen is beautiful. So I encourage each and every person from the other parishes to come in to St. Andrew. You can do your Sunday drive with your family and come to see what we have. We have a lot to offer. I would love to see some infrastructure like put into place right in my little district where there's no recreation in my district right now for the children, and the children are our future. So what I would like to see happen in my district is where we could get a play park, a community center in this little close-knit neighborhood. And also they have children with special needs. So it's like we need, if we get the community center put into place, we can have programs that the children can help develop themselves, because it will be a financial cost on the parents with special need if they have to take them elsewhere to get it, and parents have to work to provide for these same special need children also. So if we have the community center put into place, we would be able to have these programs come into our neighborhood, which can help the children to develop. We can even do a homework club. And as skill training, we can have the community development that have programs where we can bring to the neighborhood instead of we as persons in this district will have to trek to different community center to do this program. It can happen here at the same community center, and we the persons up here can be responsible for maintaining the community center.
My name is Joyanne from the parish of St. Andrew. I'm a farmer, and I think that we need a farmer's market down here. There's a location that I had in mind because I vision it as where the old MTW depot is right next door to the police station. They could use that and put that as a farmer's market, whereas they do plenty stalls and people will have their own stalls. Somebody will be doing chicken, fish, pork, whatever, vegetables, so that it be a community-based thing because down here it's full of farmers, but we just don't get recognized. So that's basically my main idea.
There's a lot of ideas that we need things going on agriculture-wise because that's how we're gonna sustain ourselves. So I'm a small farmer myself, me, Corey Henry. I do farming in terms of I plant loads of different stuff. I target different areas as in I do lettuce, I do sweet peppers, I do okras, I do a whole different variety. But I myself would like more room to do more work too. So what I would really like is to see the government push more funds into the entrepreneur program, and I think we need to create more employment for the youth. Yes, we need more kiosks so that we can have businesses running and things running smoothly, but I also would like the youth to be involved. I was in a program with the government playing draft, and we had to get 2 players to play that was under 19. And it was so hard to find 2 players. We had to drop out the tournament and we came third 3 times. We had people in Sugar come down here at Allen School to play us because we were winning all the time. So all who came further now had to come down. We had big MPs coming to give us prizes for winning and stuff. So I mean, I like them to see those things being restored. Get something for the youth. Have little domino games, little draft, little different ideas from like back then should come forward to now because I find things were running smoother back then than now. But I think now we have more money to fluctuate, so we should be able to help the youth more. So I just would like to see more being done for the youth in St. Andrew. Me, Corey Henry, because as a person living down here for 40 years, I seen all. We never had a boy going to jail down here. We had the lowest crime rate for the longest time in St. Andrew. The crime rate down here is very, very low. If you could check it, the statistics for the last 40 years, there very, very little crime goes on in St. Andrew. That's my idea. My idea is to see them do a nice pavilion up on the pasture there in Belle Plaine. And I would also like to see them have the park restored for the children. Long Pond, we had rafts out there. We used to go fishing. We used to come, we would go out a weekend, we would just cast a net, catch fish, and every boy cook and eat food. We used to do that right on a regular basis. But all those things, we used to even have people coming and cooking on the corner. We had Long Pond, we had the huts built from cuscus grass. I watched those things being done. It was really done through Cole Williams and Mr. Hunt and stuff. And it was beautiful. They had outdoor ovens built out of rocks. It was a beautiful thing, and I think it should be restored as well. Yes, I do believe that they should restore the huts out at the Long Pond area and to have all the tourists coming back again to a new, different environment to create a different environment for the tourists, a tourism hub. You know, we need to do some things for the tourists as well.
Good night, all. I'd like to welcome you once again to the IDES Forum St. Andrew edition. My name is Alex Dongs. I am the press secretary to the Prime Minister. I'm joined by my colleague and co-host to my right, Kahir Bulbulia, who I am sure you are all familiar with. So as Roy would have mentioned to you, everyone hear me well? Okay, so as Roy would have mentioned to you, this is the Ideas Forum. This is your opportunity to share your ideas on how you can create a better community, a better parish, and obviously a better Barbados. And so we're welcoming you to bring these ideas to the forum. Obviously, if you have your idea, you present it. If you do have an idea, please feel free to go to the Prime Minister's office desk, where they will take your information, and then you, of course, will feel free to come to the mic when it is your opportunity. So without further ado, this is your time. I'd invite the first speaker to come to the microphone, Ms. Carlitha Andrews.
Good night, everyone. My name is Carlitha Andrews. I'm hailing from White Hill, St. Andrew. I'm here to. There's a saying that the children are the futures of tomorrow. One of my main reasons for being here tonight is to ask to the Prime Minister, whoever is in authority, to acquire there's a church in White Hill that has been abandoned since the road has been broken down. And it would be suitable for a community center and a recreational center. And what I'm asking is that for it to be acquired by the government so that we in the community will have a recreational center for the kids, because there's no recreation for the children in White Hill. They have to make a trek to the constituency office where the MP and the secretary welcome them, where they play tennis and different games. And we know boys how they are. The mothers have to keep home the daughters, but boys will always be boys. So on their trek from White Hill to Hillaby, they can get into mischief. What we are trying to do is to save these boys. And I'm begging and pleading to acquire this property, the church, whereas it can host a community center, you can have a play park and everything, because it's a big area in which everything, it could be a community center, whereas the older folks, they can have like the classes that has been done by the community development can be hosted there also. So I'm pleading and begging, because right now we see what's going on with the kids, and all I'm trying to do is for our parents, we as parents, to have our eyes and have our kids close to us. So I'm pleading for the relevant authority to acquire this property, because we can manage the community center ourselves and have it supervised. Because take a parent, for instance, with a child that have challenges. In order for that parents to have proper development for that child is a financial cost. So if we have the community center in our area, it would be less financial cost on the parent, where you will have supervision. Even if the parent is not there, other person from the neighborhood could be there to supervise this child. We can have reading clubs, and we can have other activities going on in the community center. So this I'm asking to have this community center acquired, this church acquired and be turned into a community center.
Thank you.
My next point is as you all can see, there's a lot of roads in the area that is being under construction. And my thing is, seeing all of these big trucks on this road, I've been saying for the longest while, these trucks should made to pay a levy that when they mash up our roads, that there's money there to repair these roads. Because you see some roads that say 2 tons, and you will see a 10-ton truck on this road. Already the road had not been finished. For instance, the road in White Hill, you will see a 10-ton truck coming through White Hill and mashing up these roads. And I think that these trucks should be made to pay a levy. And when that levy is being paid, that levy is there to repair these roads when it's being mashed up by the truck. My next point is, we know that St. Andrew is one of the most vulnerable parish in St. Andrew. And being a member of the St. Andrew DEO, we doesn't have a home. And I'm asking, I'm sorry the minister is not here, but I'm asking if it's time enough that a building can be acquired for the St. Andrew DEO, because we need a home. We doesn't have a home. We have to go to the school. And the BIM, right now the BIM is housed here at the Allen School. And I don't think that is good enough for a vulnerable parish like this. So we do need a home where we can call home, where we can enter when we feel like, because there are things that we are restricted to do right now because we doesn't have a home. We have to be asking for the keys on Sundays when we have to keep meetings. We have to be asking for the keys for the school there in St. Andrew. There's a lot of buildings in St. Andrew that can be looked at so that can be acquired for the St. Andrew DEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlitha. I think you've raised some really interesting ideas on how we can, as we focus on a lot, repurpose some older buildings that we have for newer purposes. And I'm sure, obviously, your MP is in the audience tonight, and I'm sure that's something that he'll be listening in keenly, and perhaps you can have a discussion about that going forward, how you can make that potentially a reality. So, again, thank you for that. We do have a few speakers, so I'd just like to invite everyone to be as succinct as possible. Okay, no problem. I invite everyone to just be as succinct as possible because we do want to hear your ideas, but as you can appreciate, sometimes you may say something that makes someone else think about what you're saying and how we can improve on these areas. So with that being said, I invite our next speaker, Mr. Nigel Williams. The floor is yours.
Chairman, other members of the head table, head of government, fellow resident of St. Andrew, good evening. This evening, I would like to make 2 submissions. One, I will start with some facts. The St. Andrew Day is on the 30th of November. Also is our Independence Day. The cross on the X on the coat of arms represent our patron St. Andrew, which you will see in St. Andrew Parish Church. The highest honor in the land is the Knight Ordained of St. Andrew. And with these significant features representing our independence, I am proposing that the Independence Parade be held in St. Andrew. I envision that it will be held at the most beautiful and maintained cricket ground in Barbados, which is Isolation Cavaliers. And then march, after the parade, you march to the Conrad Sports Club. And that is named after one of the national heroes, right? And I believe that the salute can be done from the roundabout, which complement the St. Andrew Parish Church, which is which has the best kept surroundings and graveyard and Barbados. And as the parade marched to Conrad Sports Club, you will pass the Sand Hole, which you will hear people say that St. Andrew everywhere. And that's what we're talking about, the sand for construction in Barbados. Right? And as you there march past, you will see all the other historic and beautiful parts of St. Andrew, the lush green. So I'm hopeful that this can happen. Right. My next submission is the crab night. The crab night belongs to the St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee. And I'm saying that the point that they at now, I really envisioned all the way back now in 99, 98. That is where we expect it to go. However, I believe that the St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee should get royalties from this activities. And whoever take it on should not forget the St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee. Because as the past chairman of the St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee, I fully aware, and you can get it from this information from the CICS, that St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee came second numerous occasions. I believe the most second of all the Independence Committee. And let me say that all them were by 1 point. Because we cannot win by 1 point, but we lose by 1 point. To win, St. Andrew has to be like Benton, up front. You understand? So I'm saying that this money would assist the Independence Committee to implement strategies to get the ambassadors up front. Also, would assist in paying for the buses to take the senior citizens to the scenic ride. And this scenic ride must go to King George V Park, because St. Andrew people love King George V Park. So I'm saying it is important that St. Andrew Parish Independent Committee get royalties from this, from the crab night. Those are my submissions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nigel. And I believe your MP would like to have a conversation with you. I thought it was a very creative idea in terms of having the parade. His name is Nigel Williams. Which part of St. Andrew are you from, Nigel? Well, you didn't want to give your ideas in writing.
Well, currently I live in Shuri Village, born and raised in Borden. And currently, I am the president of the Lions Club of Scotland District and was a volunteer all my life.
Nice.
All.
Nice. So, Nigel, what you can ask for you to do is, especially that first idea, I want you to put it in writing and send it to your MP as well. Yeah, it's a nice idea, something new. I don't know if my good friend, Mr. Vaughn from Isolation, gonna want you to walk on the field, but I know he would accommodate you on the outside, but that's a different conversation separately. But I think you should put it in writing and send it to your MP who likes the idea already, and I'm sure many other Barbadians may like it as well. So we're moving ahead now. We're gonna ask Mr. George Beckles to come to the mic. Just a reminder to state where in St. Andrew you're from, You don't have to give your exact address, but just where in St. Andrew you're from, and then you could go into your point.
Okay. I'm George Beckles. I'm from Belplain. My submission is about development. Now, fortunately, this meeting is being held at a time when this auditorium was made available. Now, if this had been held a few weeks ago, I don't think we would have had an alternative venue to host such a meeting. What I'm getting at is that there is really no center in St. Andrew where meetings of this nature can be held. So I'm talking about development. We need a properly functioning resource center in the constituency. But of course, we need far more than that. Let me give you just a few of the most pressing needs from my perspective to fulfill the recreation, employment, and business requirements for both the young and the senior citizens of this constituency. Now, here's my list. We need a let's say a play park for the kids. A skills training center. No fewer than 10 kiosks for small business development. A fully functional resource center. A community library equipped with computers for training and community use. At least 3 road tennis courts. Multi-purpose courts, of course, for netball, basketball, etc. And of course, the Belplain playing field would become a hub for skills training, business development, computer training, community social programs, and competitive as well as recreational sports. Now, I need, of course, to develop this to explain exactly why I consider these needs important.
Mr. Beckles, not to cross you, right here, sir. You spoke on kiosks and you spoke on the skills training center. Where ideally would you like to see these kiosks?
Okay, I'll come in.
Okay, no problem.
Now, let's discuss the skills training. There are several young men being thrown out of school at age 16 without academic qualifications or marketable skills. Many of them can be seen selling by the wayside, by the supermarket, outside the Allen School, by the playing field, along the East Coast Road, by the primary school, wherever there's space available. At the same time, it is difficult to find anyone to fix a pipe, to do repairs on a house, to do a paint job. So learning a skill will present these young people with more options for development. And of course, the ideal center for skills training would be the now abandoned Children's Center, just somewhere between the Rockland and the Belplain playing field. Right? It's a big area, and it can host any number of skills training areas. Right? Now, I mentioned kiosks for business development. Right? Now, these I want to submit should be placed on the outskirts of the field, right? Of the playing field at Belle Plaine, right? Where those persons who are now find themselves along the street are other persons who have businesses that they really want to develop, but then they will have comfortable accommodation, right, to pursue their trade. Right? Now, the idea of a resource center is an immediate necessity. Right? For more than 30 years, right, there has been nowhere for social groups or clubs to meet in the entire parish. Right? I want to put the parliamentary representative on notice that he will not retain support except construction of this center is both pledged and honored like yesterday. Right? And I'm happy, of course, that the Prime Minister is here as well, right? Because now the library and the computers can be made part of the resource center. Right? Now, road tennis, as you know, is an indigenous sport, and it's becoming very popular and also very lucrative. Right? We hear, of course, of large amounts of money being paid to persons who win these competitions. Right? And there's no reason why St. Andrew can't be a part of this program. Right? So if we have enough space for youngsters to practice, develop their skills, well, then I can see them making money, both from competitions within the parish, as well as all those ones they can compete for outside the parish as well. Now, I see the playing field used for training purposes, training cricket, football. As we know nowadays, of course, that there's a lot of money being made by those ones who play their trade all over the world, right, in cricket. Right? And we need to get more youngsters playing cricket. Right? In the meantime, the Cavaliers grounds at Haggett's and Convert Sports Club, these are all in their need of assistance from government. Right? And these can be made into areas where students, where young people can involve themselves, of course, in sports of their choice, particularly football and cricket. Now, I want to say something.
Right. Mr. Beckles, I'm going to have to ask you to give one more point. Because
yes, I'm finished. Yes,
yeah, no problem. You're going over the limit a little bit.
Okay.
But you can begin to wrap up now, yeah?
In conclusion, right? Look, there has been very little government-sponsored development in St. Andrew over the past 25 years. Right? The time has come to correct this neglect. Right? We deserve better. Right? And by the way, I'm not sure whether Madam Prime Minister, you're aware that there's only one Category 1 shelter in St. Andrew, and that happens to be in Hillaby. Right? Now, I'm not sure how many persons will be able to get to Hillaby from this area in a disaster. Right? And even if they get there, how many of them will be accommodated? Right? So we need action on somewhere that we can use as a Category 1 shelter in the event of some hurricane system. Right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, George, for your ideas and recommendations. I hear you speak with passion, and so I know that you're speaking from a place of caring. So again, thank you for sharing your suggestions and your ideas. We'll move on to the next speaker. We have Larry Rudder, who's coming to the mic. Larry, are you here with us?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Where in St. Andrew are we from?
Where in St. Andrew live?
Yes.
Walker, St. Andrew. Okay. You catch me by surprise. I thought it would come about next half hour. Anyway, I'm going to talk about things that affect me first. I live in Walkers. When I went to register just now, I thought it was a bit trying to, I might be wrong. They were trying to muzzle me.
Larry, I'm not trying to muzzle you, but...
Not you.
I know, but it's an ideas forum.
Let me speak now.
I know, but it's an ideas forum, so we can ask you to
Anyway,
bring ideas.
I'm going to tree off
anyway,
four
Larry.
points.
We ask you to bring ideas and solutions.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I would like to see some houses developed in St. Andrew on flat government lands. All these trees that they are planting on flat government lands. These trees should be planted in the hills to stop the lands from coming down. Try to create some house spots on flat government lands at Highgates, at Greenland, for St. Andrew people and people who want to come to St. Andrew. Instead of planting all those fruit trees that some people love to see, they look pretty, but those trees should be planted in the hills of St. Simon's, Chalky Mount, and the Lesset Borden. I'm not going to say any more tonight. I hope that other people who reside in St. Andrew, who are being affected with that bus service from St. Andrew Church, will come and speak for themselves. I got car in a van. But those people who have to catch St. Andrew Church bus, up and down, the bus should left Bridgetown, down the highway, through Orange Hill, down to St. Andrew Church. Instead of going up through Parish Spring, then up through Dunscombe. No, that wrong. I spoke to the MP about that before. Transport Board look at that. That bus is affecting St. Andrew people. Thank you very much, everyone.
Even thank you very much, Larry. Your suggestions on the bus service needing to be relooked, as well as the housing developments, those are taken on board. And as always, I am sure that someone will be in contact with you at some point just to discuss. We have another speaker who has a few ideas I see here, Donna Maynard. Donna, are you present with us?
All right, Alex, let me speak here for a second.
No worries, Roy.
Ms. Maynard did send a very extensive document, and she did promise that she would be here, but I have not seen her yet. So just let me take the opportunity to share some of her ideas. She is, I believe, a special education, or let me put it another, she is a reading and writing specialist as a teacher, and she is employed, I believe, at the Ada Costa Edwards Primary School. And she has 4.5 pages of suggestions. The first one relates to development of our people. She says, our people are of greatest and most precious resource. The long-term progress of St. Andrew depends on empowering residents to grow, adapt, and take ownership of our parish's development. And she goes on to speak about education and skills training, the need to provide continuous education and skills for all ages, training in areas such as entrepreneurship, agriculture, livestock rearing, barbering, digital literacy, and small business management, and establish partnerships with training agencies and NGOs to deliver certified courses locally. I believe that fits in with the Coursera program that government is running through the Ministry of Education. In terms of community service, upgrade and expand community centers, which we've heard from 2 speakers, equip centers as libraries with computers and training spaces. Again, that has come up, I believe, twice so far for the night. The question of roads and transportation, she also mentions them as areas that should be touched, and just like Larry and his reference to adjusting the bus service, she suggests that Chalky Mount, that there's a bus service, or a shuttle service rather, from the Chalky Mount area to Belle Plaine on a regular basis. In terms of education and sports, she speaks of the need for a dedicated sporting playing field at the Ada Costa Edwards Primary School. And she talks about the fact that there are 186 students there who, after quite a while, still don't have a dedicated playing field. This one I shared with the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Housing, because that is an issue that has come up at 2 Parish Speaks prior, and he sent back a detailed note apologizing that he can't come tonight, he's not feeling well, but he did point out that there are 4 parcels of land that have been acquired by the government at the rear of the school that were for the express purpose of providing a playing field. However, there are some houses that are located on the periphery of that land, and he says as long as the ministry is ready to make a determined decision that it wants the area for a playing field, the ministry is prepared to shift the houses so the school can have its playing field. He did make the point, though, that, and I think this is also my observation, given there appears to be some reluctance to upset the 4 houses that are bordering the land. So at some point, somebody needs to make a decision. If not, this will just go on in perpetuity. She speaks to nature and heritage tourism and the fact that the very beauty and landscape of St. Andrew is perfect for development of immersive, sustainable tourism that showcases the Scotland District landscape and living heritage. Opportunities, she says, includes Scotland District Adventure and Heritage Loop, hiking, cycling trails linking major landmarks with passport-style checkpoints, forest to clear experience, Turner's Hall Woods Walk, Nature Walk, and Chalky Mount Pottery Workshop in a kind of a combined arrangement, and then night garden and star stories. Given the beauty of the land and the absence of street lights on every area as you would in the urban corridor, you are better able to appreciate the natural lighting of the night in St. Andrew, and she believes that we should take some advantage of that. Voices of the Hills Tour, she suggests that there's it could be storytelling rides with elders and the folk musicians of the community. And in that area, she also suggests a Pico Tenerife Creative Escape, a retreat area that showcases art and allows for exhibitions that take into consideration the sunset. She believes that the Long Pond Crab Night could be developed, as we've heard from other speakers, into a larger eco-tourism and appreciation for residents of the parish and by residents of the parish. And she believes the Crab Night should really become a festival that is larger than St. Andrew. I'm sure she will get the approval of the MP for St. Andrew for that. And the last thing I'll mention is she calls for the reintroduction of the police station in St. Andrew as a way of bringing the residents and those who deliver services related to law enforcement closer together, as well as for faster response to issues. And as usual, a greater reliance or a greater appreciation of the need for landscaping and debushing across the parish and public spaces. So I just thought I would share them since she's not here, and she took the time to write them and sent them in via our portal more than 48 hours ago. Alex?
No problem, Roy. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's unfortunate that Donna couldn't be here with us because I think some of the ideas that you've mentioned would have certainly been thought-provoking, I think, if she was here to deliver them herself. But nonetheless, we would take on board those ideas. And there is one other person that we have to speak. Again, if you do have an idea, please feel free to go to the table, share your idea so that we have it on record and that we can then develop it if we can move forward. But we have an Andrew Williams. The microphone is yours, Andrew. Or Marcus, as I hear some people calling you. And Marcus. Marcus, the microphone there. Both.
Hi, good night. Hi, good night. Hi, good night. My name is Marcus, or Andrew, if you prefer. I'm from West Road, Belle Plaine, St. Andrew. But I come here to speak about the environment. Mostly I do a lot of hiking, and as I go through the bush, I observe St. Andrews dying. First, in fact, we get from the Hillaby side, coming right back to Morgan Loises, that water ain't running anymore, that's dying. As the rain run off, the river die. From Hillaby, from Sturgis coming, that water running all right, but from this side I realized that that side of St. Andrews is dying. I would like to put this proposal to the government. We got a lot of runoff land running straight to the sea. All the river streams, next door is River Tumbling, River Tumbling, River Tumbling. I would like the government, I don't know if it could be done, but I would like the water courses, not necessarily dealing with the trouble in the water of itself, but the banks of the river. I would like them clean up so we could plant some food, some actually crops that don't gotta really spend much time to deal with, like coconut trees, mango trees, something to sustain the riverbank. So it just water be right there. We don't gotta worry about the water, so it won't want a lot of hard work to like go and mine these things because it takes a lot of while for a coconut tree to really grow up grass from it. So I would like the government to utilize the water courses. We got about 30-somebody water courses running from Sturgis right back around to Boscobel, running going right to the sea. We are not utilizing the water, and it's just bush growing. I would love the government if they could plant some coconuts, because here Barbados is going to be the next coconut habit. We're building a coconut project here, and I would like it to be in St. Andrew. On weekends, I see thousands of coconuts going from St. Andrew to go in town. They're just going town, but I won't want them to know that it's a coconut project built in Christ Church, and the coconuts coming from St. Andrew. So that's what I would like to see. And the another thing is, the terraces. As I hike, I realize that there's a lot of terraces and a lot of erosion going on from right round, from St. Simon's, Turnlessall, the Woods, Morgan Lewis, right back round. Sometimes you got to struggle to get out. The river Tumbling won't cut it out. One time they saw you say go regular and push these terraces, but I realize that these terraces don't push them more. So they're blocked up. I don't know if the government could pay a look into that, because I guess these are extra roads that we could get out. So that's just my little input on how I'd like to see done. And I don't know if the government like couldn't see what I like, because fruit trees is something substantial. One thing when you're young, you walk the river, you could get guavas, you could get mangoes, you could get cane, you could get breadfruit, you could get anything from the river course. No, the river is just river Tumbling. And it was just wasting to me. And if you check it, after the rain run off, I live in Warriors Road. I live in the river of itself. And all I get is mosquitoes, because the river ain't running and it dying, and then they left the water stagnant, it's just mosquitoes. There ain't no fish traveling because the water dying off, it drying up, so the fish ain't getting a chance to breathe, so they can stick more to long pond. But I stretch from actually Walker's Bridge to Long Pond is a dead end, a dead stretch, bare mosquitoes. I would like the government if they could look into like pushing the river and just getting some trees put in so we could like, especially for me that do hiking, that'd be a lot better for me so I could plant some good trails next to the river. So that's just my little input.
Marcus, just hold for one moment. The head of the Soil Conservation Unit is here. Kenny, do you want to respond in terms of the coconut trees and other vegetation? And I don't know if Mr. Innes, his references to the development of other areas is within yours at BADMC. I know, Kenny, you plan to do something with coconut trees in large numbers.
Okay, good night, everybody. Kenny Ward is my name from Soil Conservation Unit. I think Marcus and I would have had this conversation sometime last year at the Parish Speaks. Now, we have been trying to clear a lot of the terraces and the water courses, but one of the issues that we are being faced with is that they're being destroyed as soon as they're fixed. Once they're able to be used for vehicular transporting across them, they're being destroyed by a lot of the vehicles that use them for sightseeing. That's one of the issues that we're grappling with. With respect to the planting of the trees, we have been trying to increase our planting across the Scotland district, the entire Scotland district. Today only we've just started clearing Greenland in Overhill, where we plan to put in a few, about at least an acre of trees. We plan to put an acre there in Coggins. We plan to put an acre in Sedge Pond. I'm glad to hear Laurie talking tonight about planting in the hills. As a matter of fact, I passed by your property only recently this week, and my intention is to have a chat with you with regards to putting trees on your property, because I noticed that it's almost abandoned. So sorry. Right, so I noticed the coconut trees are there, but there are other areas that what I wanted to do was to talk with you with regards to increasing some of the area with fruit trees. So there is a plan to increase the fruit tree production across the area. We just planted, if you look, if you've noticed by Coggins area, we've just planted some cherry trees. We have some breadfruit trees that we want to plant in the same area. So there's a plan to increase the tree production, and we've been trying, especially because of hurricane season, for example, the water courses, as you were talking about, trying to clear the water courses, because, you know, once they're not cleared and they're blocked up, it will encourage the water to get on the roadways, especially there by the East Coast, just past the sand dunes. We're hoping to clear that almost immediately. We've been clearing the water course out in Shorey Village. That one has been completed. We've been clearing a number of the water courses, but again, as I said, a lot of the work that we've been doing is being impeded by a lot of the vehicles that are trekking across them, on the motorcycles and those guys that trample on the terraces when it's wet. I know there are the activities that they may want to have for their sport and fun. They may think that it's a enjoyable occasion for them, but they don't realize what they're doing when they destroy the terraces. So as soon as we clear the terraces, the rain falls, and these guys come out, we get the terraces destroyed. So we're trying our best to clear the water courses. We're trying our best to increase the fruit tree production across the landscape in the Scotland district.
Thank you. Good night. Frederick Innes, BADMC. Just to add to Kenny's point, in terms of the fruit trees, we actually are working with Brazil in terms of sourcing a number of coconut varieties. And I think you've actually raised an interesting point where our focus may be towards the orchard type development. In terms of securing the waterways, I'm not an environmentalist, so forgive me, but I think you've actually raised a fairly important point where we can actually give focus to those areas as we are developing those projects. So definitely coconut, also breadfruit. Those two are elements that we are trying to actually source the planting material to actually escalate what we're doing. So I believe we will see some activity on that over the course of later this year. I don't have exact dates for the importation. There is a process that we go through in terms of ensuring there's no viruses brought in when those come. So as that process is secured, I think you will definitely start to see. But I will take your idea definitely in terms of identifying key water courses to actually see if we can do some work along those. We do have a number of areas that are under the BADMC's control, so I think we may be working with you and Kenny to identify where we can actually do that work. So thank you.
Before you walk away, I'm not sure if it's you or Kenny, but your statement, Marcus, about the area dying, is it that there are springs that are drying up? Is it that the springs are no longer flowing? What is it that you're seeing that needs to be addressed?
Well, I observed from the time Cowians put the dam over in St. Thomas, he went under the spring and he tapped. So you don't get any pressure water coming down to St. Lucie no more, because that vein is run from Sturgis straight to St. Lucie. So we feed all the springs from Sturgis, St. Andrew, St. Peter, straight down to Bosque, down to St. Lucie. Yeah, but I realize now that only one, if the river ran, St. Andrew below side ran. But as the river stop run, as the rain start fall, the river stop run. But this other side above here, like Sturgis side, it keep running. But that below side just dry up. So it never used to happen before. So I observed that part of St. Andrew dying, it getting dry out too fast.
Thank you very much. I think what it points to, in my view, is the importance of local knowledge, local observation, and being able to share that information with those who are the technical people who are doing development projects. But that's just by way of me and for sharing discussion. Thank you very much, Marcus.
Thanks.
Really want to thank you again, Marcus, because your ideas, as you have seen, have prompted a lot of discussion. And as you can see, there are also plans in tow from both the BNDMC as well as soil conservation. So really looking forward to not just hearing the ideas, but like you like the outdoors. I'm not from St. Andrew, but I do recognize the value of having these areas where you can traverse and marvel at nature sometimes. So I appreciate you for sharing those thoughts with us. We have a few more speakers that I'd like to invite to the microphone to share their ideas. The next person I have is a Corey Henry.
Greetings, everyone. My apologies, it may be a little bit hoarse, but I have two ideas in which I'd like to share with you all. I'm from Bordens in St. Andrew, and my name is Corey Henry. I've found that, and I've had some discussions with some older folks from around here, and we've always been talking about the area over here by the roundabout, whereas we would like to see some little kiosks being built there where everyone would be selling different items, and even we'll be able to target some tourists here, doing little tourism stuff for tourism and stuff. And I find that the area is really a good location because we have a lot of tourists passing there, because I'm a person who sells fruits on the roundabout from time to time. And it's an area where I think we should increase more with the tourism sector due to the fact that they have a lot of tourists passing there, but they mainly go by the restaurant, and after they leave the restaurant, it's back to the hotel. There's no other in-between stops because there's nothing interesting that would interest them. So I think we should do something in terms of bringing, doing something with that area. Another area I think that we should restore is the huts out at Long Pond. And we had the rafts over there where we had tourists coming from all over the world just to go on the rafts. You had outdoor cooking going on out there as well. We had lots of stuff. We even had a building built over there which was built out of mostly grass and mud and different stuff. And I think it would bring back the real Bajan culture, you know. And I would really like to see all those kind of things restored, you know. And one more thing is I see the youth needs more help. The youth needs a lot of help in St. Andrew. I think they're bored, there are not enough activities for them, and I think something should be done out by the pastor as well. Even if it's just a park done, even if it's just something where you can go and exercise, but something where we can do, where they can have gainful employment. They can employ the brand. Yes, please, and that, I think that would be my 2 cents for now. But and going forward, I would like to come up with more ideas in terms of bettering St. Andrew. And I thank you all.
So, Corey, I just want to commend you for coming up and sharing. So you say you sell there at the corner as well?
Yes, sir.
Right, so you sell fruits, right?
Fruits,
ports and everything, yeah.
I also work land.
Speaking to the mic.
I also plant. I also do agriculture. So I sell vegetables, I sell lettuce, I sell okras, different stuff, cucumbers.
That one.
I go into different areas. I also sell sea grapes. I sell fat ports, akis, donks, a variety, a very, very large variety.
So in terms of business in the tourist season, you see a heightened increase in business for tourists specifically?
Well, the tourists, we don't really get a lot of business from the tourists. We mostly get business from like returning nationals that haven't eaten the product for a long time. So they come back looking for it. And some of them are so pleased because like 20 years I haven't eaten a fat pork. So to see the way how the joy that it brings to them is what keeps me going out there and looking for the fruits. So
you believe, so that's what you believe, a dedicated space with some marketing behind it would bring some more foot traffic?
Yes, please. Yes, I do believe it will work.
That's brilliant. Big up yourself. That's why you come to the mic and speak, man. Well done. I know you.
Thank you for calling me up. And thank you for having me. Yes, Mr. Springer.
Yes, sir. Just want to share with you and the audience here that the area that you mentioned, which is the area where was housed the old NTW depot, that area has been earmarked as a vendor zone. There are 2 areas in St. Andrew that we've identified for vendor zones. That being one because of its centrality. It's such a central location in the Belle Plaine area. All traffic, either on Highway 2 or Ermyborn Highway, they pass that way. And we felt because of that central location that should be considered an area for a vending zone. Another area that we looked at is the area just outside of Shorey Village. When you come down from Shorey Village onto Highway 2, that area there next to the Conrad Hunt Pavilion, that can capture the tourist that comes down from, let's say, St. Nicholas Abbey, and it will also capture the tourists coming down from Fardy Hill. One day, when that road in Shorey was being constructed, BWA was in that area lowering some service lines, and the road was blocked for maybe 15 minutes or so whilst BWA worked. And in that space of time, about 20 tourist buses were backed up on that stretch of road, which tells me that there's a heavy presence of tourists passing that way. And I think if we can use that space and build out that space for vending, for both selling to both locals and tourists, I think that area, even though it doesn't look like it right now, that area could be a wonderful, wonderful place for vending in St. Andrew, a wonderful alternative to here. Not necessarily alternative, but another spot where you can capture persons when they come into St. Andrew. And they can get anything they want as it relates to island life, beach life, anything that has to do with the beautiful East Coast can be sold at those two areas, and you're going to get them in the areas where they must travel. There are not many routes into St. Andrew that wouldn't include that junction right there or the junction by Shuri Village. So I think those two areas are perfect for vending. And I would support any move, and they've been identified. So it's just a matter of time before we get around to developing those spaces. But there's nothing to stop persons from using the space, because the space, especially there by Shuri Village, it can be, once it's clean, it can be used even before it's officially developed. I think I saw someone on the other side already started selling. There's nothing. All right, so I'll be guided by the Prime Minister. But as I said, that area has been earmarked for development, and that's development I hope to see someday, and someday soon. And mention was made of, I just want to make the point that there's no doubt that there's need for a resource center in down here in the Belle Plaine areas. There's no doubt about that. We need one. In the interim, I would want to encourage persons to take advantage of what we already have in place. We have this space here. We have this school. This school can be retrofitted to do anything that can be done in a resource center in the meantime. We have the 8 Costa Edwards Primary School, all in walking distance of most persons who live in the Belle Plaine area. All we need is some resource persons to come in and take the opportunity to do some training in these spaces. Whilst we wait until we get a proper resource center, that doesn't mean that we have to wait to train our people, because there's a number of classrooms here at this facility. There are a number of classrooms here at this facility that can be used, and there are classrooms at the 8 Costa Edwards Primary School that can be used for training in the interim. It's just for persons to step forward and give up their services. And I want to encourage, now that I'm here, there are a number of retired teachers, retired principals, retired persons who have lecturers and so on living in the St. Andrew area. And in terms of giving back, this is a perfect opportunity to give back. We have some children who have challenges, and we know that there are some parents who couldn't afford the lessons. But I believe that those who have been through the system before and know the importance of education should take this opportunity to give back to their community, to give some evening classes. I know it's done already in other parts of St. Andrews, probably done here in Belle Plaine as well. But if we can expand that to encourage more persons to come forward and more students to get involved, then I think that is a good start in terms of dealing with some of the challenges that we have here in this part of St. Andrew. So I just want to encourage those persons in hearing my voice, if you're retired, or you have time in the afternoon, you want to give back to your community, that you can reach out to me. I certainly would do what I have to do at my end to facilitate it, to ensure that there can be programs in place for training of our children and perhaps training of our young adults as well. Because if we have persons, I have some years ago, I think it was, and I'm going to call his name because I think he would want me to call his name about this, Mr. George Vaughn. He teaches the culinary arts, and he said to me that if he can find a space that he would want to train persons in culinary arts. So there are persons that they're willing to give of their skills and their talent so that we can further develop our communities. So if there's anyone else and they want to give back, feel free to share with me your information, and we can start the ball rolling from there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Springer. Mr. Mears raised a point about fat ports in the course of his conversation. But I wanted to sort of put a question to Kenny in terms of soil conservation. For all of my lifetime, for most of us in here, fat ports are something you walk the beach and you pick. Has soil conservation ever done anything to see if it can be a commercially grown product, or is it just a wild vine on the beach and there's nothing else that can be done with it?
Well, the question is if we have done anything to, for commercial. No, the answer is no. But our main interest really is in producing the trees and planting the trees, and for conservation purposes. For example, we've planted a lot of fat ports along the Morgan Lewis Bay some years ago. The answer is no. We've never looked at in terms of any additional commercial, any added value to the fat port.
And it's only a beach. It only grows on the beach. It doesn't grow inland.
No. It grows inland. It grows almost. It tolerates. It's a fruit crop that will tolerate saline conditions as well as other conditions away from the sea. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you learn something new every day, Roy. That's brilliant. I really enjoyed that conversation. So we have.
I have eaten fat pork in Florida. It grows in Florida. It makes a nice edge as well. Nice edge.
Sir,
My name is,
sir, you're Henderson?
Mears.
You're Henderson Mears?
Yes, I'm from Bed Plains, St. Andrew. And I want to say greetings to Madam Prime Minister. And I'm here to make a long story short, basically. To make it short. Last time I was here, I got some pretty good results from the Prime Minister when it came to Franklin's Road. But here we are a little bit later, ma'am, and we got a drop in that road that needs to be looked at. Okay? Secondly, Franklin Road. Franklin Road. All right? You hear this one now? Franklin Road? There you go.
That's Franklin Dublin?
Yes, Franklin Dublin. Ben Hill. Okay. My next issue, or my issue, is soil conservation. The lot of lip service, ladies and gentlemen, soil conservation needs to step to the plate. That's the bottom line. My grievance with soil conservation is this. For 4 years, I've been trying to get a piece of land plowed at Bordens. For 4 years. Up to the day. Before I knew about this meeting, I went to soil and they gave me the name of 2 individuals that I'm supposed to speak with, or they will have contact me sometime later today, and that has not happened. So soil needs to step to the plate. Marcus made a very good point, the waterways. Something needs to be done about the waterways. A lot of mosquito, because the water is not rolling like it used to. We used to have a water hole. We can go get a fish. You can get a tom-run. And although I spent a lot of years overseas, I still know the grapes, the fat pork, the cashew, I eat enough of them to last me a lifetime anyway, right? But soil can contribute more to St. Andrew than any other agency in Barbados. Actually, St. Andrew, Barbados has played a more vital part in the development of Barbados than any other parish. Every $1 million house you see in Barbados, the material that built that house was raped from St. Andrew. Rape. And St. Andrew continues to be raped. And Madam Prime Minister, it needs to stop. Seriously, we need to give back to St. Andrew more. So, Mr. Sprayer, you got a big job on your hands. I keep telling you so. Give it up if you can't handle it. All right? No. the young men, the youth of Belle Plaine, of St. Andrew, they're struggling. Really, really struggling. I don't work no more. But these guys are going to work before I can get a cup of coffee. They start at 7 in the morning. And you all know where they hang out or where to go to work at. And they stay at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Doing what? You tell me what they're doing. Can't we find better employment for these folks? I think we can. We are more concerned about ourselves than the youth. We just had an event called Regathering. That's what it was called. Where were the kids? I ain't see no kiddie fair, no kiddie parade. Come on.
So,
what happened to the kids?
Mr. Henderson,
What
I just want to
happened?
ask you a question that you raised a good point about employment for the youth. So I want to ask you some of the ideas you would have that could benefit these young people that you're seeing. What ideas would you bring to the
Are
plate?
you going to put what I tell you to work?
I can't make any promises, but certainly can give you a listening ear.
Can the Prime Minister make me a promise?
I can't speak on the Prime Minister's behalf, sir, but the floor right now is yours to give ideas. So please, if you have any
We can
ideas.
go out there and we can ask these guys what they want to do. We started a project over by the old rectory. What happened to it? That's one. We talk about agriculture all night. But we don't want, these guys don't want to go back to agriculture. Make sure it's made of a resource center. Bring it to life. Bring it to life. Somebody got the resources. Now, if I got to invest it, they need a return on my dollar, right? Right, Marco? That's a young man there that pretty much covers himself. Chickens, ducks, pigs, sheep, horse, and mosquitoes. I'm telling you, the guy does it. So why can't we figure out from Marco what he's doing, that he can go to the bank every Monday morning and deposit the money he charged me for 20 chickens.
Don't tell us when he goes to the bank,
You
please.
see?
Don't set him up.
Every Monday. Write it down. But seriously, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make it short. We have a St. Andrew that needs help. It needs help. When you go to sleep tonight, think about what you can do for St. Andrew. So think about what you can do for me. I want my land plowed. I want it plowed soon. Otherwise, I want a refund. I ain't going to get a private contract to do it. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you for your time.
Mr. Innes is going to return to the mic.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to also provide a brief update on the Bordens Park. So I think most persons in the room would be aware that we've done some work at that location to try to develop something of a community space. Most of the infrastructure is actually complete. I would say we are at 85%. The bathrooms are the last major piece that need to be installed. There is a bit of an administrative process that we are going through with planning department and also the procurement process, but we anticipate that before your independence parade, if that does come to fruition, would be we were looking to have it completed by then. So those are the major elements that are being produced there. There's the intention there of community participation, but we've already had the Parish Independence Committee use the space on a few occasions and also a few other community groups. So I think it has already been embraced despite not a formal launch as yet, but we're pushing to have that completed over the course of the next month or two. All right. Generally, the tractor operations in St. Andrew are held within the purview of the soil conservation, the soil unit. The whilst we have equipment also within the BADMC, we do try to acknowledge the fact that their expertise in the area and ensuring that we don't create issues in terms of land slippage has been the rationale for working with them. But I think, as was raised, I will have the conversation with Kenny in terms of if we can help to support out over the course of the next couple of days, and if that's something that we can help to escalate to solve the issue at present.
I was looking for the gentleman. When I first went to soil conservation in 1989, all of our efforts and all the works at Soil Conservation Unit was concentrated in the Scotland district. Now, what we have today is that we are really all over the island carrying out our works. We are asked to work for different ministry departments, and in some cases, for example, in Lower Burnie, we just actually cleared and ripped something like 20-something acres of land. In St. Lucie, about 22 acres. The plowing scheme is, we are plowing from St. George, St. Michael, St. Thomas, St. James, and all over the place. So the tractor, the actual implements that we have really and truly cannot suffice the entire island. That's the truth. But I am sympathetic with the gentleman who said that he asked for the services or paid for them over 4 years ago. And I appreciate the comments that he made where he said that we need to step up. And I agree. We need to improve in a lot of areas at Soil Conservation Unit, primarily for the Scotland district. I agree with that. All right? So it would be wrong for me to stand here in front of you in St. Andrew and say that otherwise. But the point is that I am telling you that we are stretched in a lot of ways. But it is something I would want the gentleman to give me his name and the information so that I can look into it. Because 4 years is definitely too long. All right? And it's not the first, I would admit to you that it's not the first case that I came across. When I became the person responsible for soil 4 years ago, someone came to me and told me about a situation where we attempted to carry out the same type of work on their land 5 years prior. And somehow that was lost somewhere on the books. So I don't know if this might be a case like that. But I agree that we need to step up and we need to have some improvements in the area of dealing with the issues that some people face in St. Andrew. And I'm hoping that we can do that going forward. There are some changes that we are expecting in the near future that hopefully soil conservation, that area of conservation can come back now and be more centralized in the Scotland district as opposed to all over the place in the country. All right? And I hope that kick in soon, that the benefits will be realized in the parish of St. Andrew once again.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. And again, thank you to the audience, both here present in person and online, for joining us for this idea forum. At this point, I'd like to just offer the microphone to the Prime Minister who wishes just to share a few remarks with us. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all of the residents for St. Andrew for coming out. Principal, thank you for accommodating us here this evening as usual. Former Principal, Mr. Beckles, I heard you loud and clear. I come to these meetings, as I said, because I don't want anybody bringing the messages to me. I come to listen. And I am clear that there is work that has to be done with respect to some of the infrastructure. We have been working on the buses. Larry, there have been additional buses coming. What I hear you asking for is more a re-examination of the routes that will happen and whether the route that we have is the most efficient route to be able to get into St. Andrew, or whether we're simply doing it because this was how it was done for decades and therefore is not necessarily meeting the needs of you today. Similarly, the project at Bordens, I would have hoped that that would have been finished a long time ago, and BADMC is taking much longer than I would have expected to finish the bathrooms, etc. I did a tour with the MP trying to determine what are the sites and the opportunities for heritage tourism and environmental tourism in St. Andrew. And in that, came out of that was Bordens. We also talked about Turner's Hall. We also talked about Isolation Ground. And my brother, thank you and continue the good work. So I am with you on that. There are some issues that I heard. I heard Corey on the vending stations. I heard you, Mr. Beckles, on the vending places. We will immediately go to place and to look and see where we can have designated vending, both for stalls either done by us or to the designs that we will settle. Because what I want to get away from, if we want to really benefit from heritage tourism, then we need to have some prototypes for what the stalls should look like. This perfect PR thing is taking what? The image of a chattel house to be able to communicate what we gathering looks like in St. Andrew. And therefore, it is something that has concerned me, not just with St. Andrew, but ensuring that we have a prototype for stalls across the country. You go to certain countries and you see that there's a prototype in terms of how they do housing or how they do stalls or how they do other things, so that it's not only aesthetically pleasing to those who visit, but first and foremost, it is aesthetically pleasing and functional to those of us who live in Barbados with that. And that's why, Rommel, I said to you that this is not a case of anybody being able to go and set up where they feel like. The country has decriminalized illegal vending. We don't want anybody to go to prison for selling in the wrong place or trying to make $1 for the family. But there has to be order. And decriminalizing does not mean that there should be no order. There has to be order. So the proclamation of the vending bill is coming, or has come rather. I think Cabinet agreed last week on that. But what we need now to do is ensure that we properly designate, and then we work with the existing vendors to make sure that people work into prototypes. I'm not talking about some of the stalls that were done in the past, which I think are ridiculously small, like the ones in the Speightstown bus terminal. Those are inappropriate. I'm talking about properly designed stalls, because what's the worst thing for a vendor? You gotta go and pack up every evening and then find somewhere to store it and then come back when the morning come. Them things ain't right. So the government, now that it has gotten through some of the difficult heavy lifting, is trying to deal with some of these issues, but it means that the vendors have to work with us too, and we need to make sure that first and foremost there's safety. And safety is first about physical safety in terms of road, because you don't want anybody coming off the road and knocking down people and killing people or maiming them. But the second aspect of it is also, welcome to the Deputy Prime Minister. The second aspect of it is health. You don't keep round the stores clean, what gonna happen? Tell me what gonna happen. That's why you got vector control for. It's not only rats, it's mosquitoes too, not true? So that our vending policy, therefore, has to work hand in hand with a strong public education policy, and one that infrastructurally wise starts to have a common theme that is uniquely born out of Bajan heritage. So you have my commitment on that. Welcome the Minister of Education too. You have my commitment on that. As it relates to some of the other easy things, Rommel, you have an allocation now at Rural Development Commission. We've tried to make sure that every constituency has a small allocation that can help you with the construction of some of these vending stores, whether it is for Shorey Village, whether it is for Belle Plaine, whether it is for wherever in Hillaby, because people sometimes go up there too as well. And we'd like to work with you on that. I heard the long email that was read. I'd like that. As I indicated in previous meetings, these things are not idle. Your ideas must come to cabinet, and the cabinet and ministers will determine what then can be integrated into their forward plans going forward, or in the case with the recommendation from the young student at the St. George Ideas Forum, we've already taken that idea for National Cleanup Days, and the country, for example, will be having 4 national cleanup weekends that we're going to ask everybody in Barbados every year. As a matter of course, we know that in any event, what's happening in December? What people is doing in December? Clean up. So you know that you start your first weekend in December, clean up. Then you come again in March. Then you come again in June. Then you come again at the beginning of September, because your children getting back into school too, not true? And you want to make sure the same way that you clean up the children's bodies, I don't know if they're still doing that nowadays, but when I was a school child, you had to get either Scott's emulsion, castor oil, or something at the end. I like Mr. Beckles. That's how people made sure that all the dirt that you eat when you're running boat during the summer, all the other things you're exposed to, they used to make sure that you clean out before going. So that the principle of cleanliness and godliness, as long as I am in this job and even after, I'm going to continue on it, because it's not only aesthetically pleasing, but it is a safety issue and a public health issue at the same time. And it is equally a security issue, so that we all know that. As it relates to BADMC and soil conservation, a meeting next week for the two of us, because this foolishness can't continue. I'm sorry that the Minister of Agriculture is not here. He had a right to be here as well, because that is why we do these town meetings, to hear directly from the people. And if, sir, you had a situation where you paid for something 4 years ago and you didn't get it, that is obtaining money by deception. So that, rest assured, the matter will be done. But I need to understand what you are doing clearing land, with all due respect to the Deputy Prime Minister, in Lower Burnie, or in St. Lucie, or in other parts of Barbados, when the Soil Conservation Unit is to work in the Scotland District. Full stop. And BADMC, you do not have the luxury of saying that you're relying on Scotland District for these things. So a meeting will be held next week for us to bring good order. I think both gentlemen mean well, but right now it ain't working how it's supposed to work, and it ain't working in a way for the people in here. And that is why the government, even with all the equipment too, every time I go and ask for something, oh, it break down, or we waiting on this, or we got this part. So it's no problem, no problem. That is why Santia is concluding the agreements with UCAL. I saw 2 more reports this evening. I know over the last 4 months, UCAL has been cleaning up MTW's equipment. I can let them clean up soil conservation and BADMC too. Because what will not happen, and when we transfer the ownership to them, because this is a company that was created not for big capital. This is a company that was created for ordinary mechanics across Barbados who used to work at the Transport Board, who under Owen Arthur, the first example of economic enfranchisement at a state level took place when we did this. The government will pay UCAL for the equipment that's working, so that you pay when the equipment is working and you don't pay when it is not working. But this notion that equipment is sitting down in workshops for months and years has to stop. I end on the point where I started, and Marcus, and who was the one that spoke at the beginning with the water courses? Where is he? And Marcus? It was you too, but no, before you there was somebody who spoke to, or somebody who spoke after, but anyhow, look, we are in a climate crisis. There are no two ways about it. There's a groundwater crisis across the world. When you see me talk on these things, I am talking for idle sake. And therefore, it is our responsibility to see how we can mitigate, how we can lessen the worst consequences that we and the world facing. How many people saw sargassum weed when it was growing up? How many? Nobody know about it. But for the last 12, 13 years, the East Coast has been scarred. Scarred. And that is why the government is about to create the Barbados Ocean and Coastal Authority in order to take that responsibility from NCC and Coastal Zone Management Unit and put it into a statutory authority, because the notion of us fixing a beach here and a beach there and a beach there and left out all in the middle can't work anymore. And what we have to do, in the same way that MTW has responsibility for roads and bridges, we need to have the Barbados Ocean and Coastal Authority have responsibility for the preservation of our beaches. In the budget, we made the point that in 10 years' time, I think it was, that we will have so much erosion on the East Coast if we do not do the preventative work now. I accept that similarly, with the increased temperatures, you may be challenged for anything that is groundwater. And that is why the Barbados Water Authority has been working with scientists locally and from overseas, looking at the water resources of the entire country. And in that, I will ask them also to specifically, and the Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology, Dr. Farrell, I will ask them to, based on what Marcus said and Nigel and others, to look specifically, and the youngster in the back who was just talking to me as well, to look and see how and what are the specific issues as it relates to the groundwater in St. Andrew. The last point I'd like to make, I sit on the board of the Global Center for Adaptation, which is also a global body dealing with these climate issues. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is to put in place a financing package to work and go on top of what is happening with the roads and Complan and the stabilization of the East Coast along those roads. But we're going to need, Mr. Beckles, I agree with you, to go further in, and we're going to have to put together a stabilization package to be able to make sure that there is dedicated stabilization taking place continuously. For the first, 35 years of my life, 40 years of my life, you could drive down the whole East Coast without the bumps and things that you have. And the absence of continuous maintenance and the absence of the provisioning in the budget and the studies being done has meant that this is what we have now inherited. And what this government is trying to do is to be able to put in place again clear systems, find the financing, and I can keep repeating. Those who worry about debt, let me remind you that when we came to office, the government of Barbados owed away $18 billion. Today our debt is $15 billion. Now we brought it down to 12, but the things that we are borrowing for, unlike the last administration, is not to pay salaries. We don't borrow money to pay salaries. That's like you borrowing money to buy food. That's unsustainable. But we borrow to build capacity, because if we get the roads and bridges fixed, what does that mean? It opens up opportunities. When we borrow to put the additional capacity in the Bridgetown port, it means that we can now handle more cargo than we were handling before, and we already have congestion, so we need it. Same thing is about to happen at the airport. Same thing is happening in the school system. Other than when I became Minister of Education, Mr. Beckles, they had not done primary schools for almost a decade. And then we started to look, and don't talk about the secondary schools, that has not been done for decades. And this Minister of Education yesterday in his ministerial statement indicated that as much as we are focusing, yes, on the pedagogical side, as we must, on the social and emotional learning targets, on testing and measurement and all of those things, that we got to deal with two basic things. That if a child hungry, what are you going to learn? And that the notion that food was only needed for primary school children, you would get a young child in a household eating, and the older brother who in second form at secondary can't get the food. Well, over the years, there has been an ad hoc arrangement dealing with that. We want to remove that, and as you know, this government would have also introduced feeding during the summer program, the summer period, since COVID, to make sure that there is stability in those households. But the second thing that we need is that if the roof leaking, or you ain't got no furniture, or you got problems with the buildings, then we still have a problem. So what we're trying to do, both through the IDB and the government's own resources, is to have a comprehensive school repair program over the next 5 years in addition to this. And that, therefore, look at this compared to what it was a year ago. And I think all of us should want to say thank you to the Ministry of Education and to the principal and to the board for allowing us to at least come into a school now that looks significantly better. I am an honorary Allen School person for the night. So you know that you have me fully. The Category 1 shelters, it bothers me. And we're going to have to find a way of working with existing buildings or putting up new buildings. Look, this has not been easy. Part and parcel of the money that we borrowed went to go to build new reservoirs and storage tanks for the Water Authority. Sante would tell you that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they come and tell us that you don't have all of these ones will not withstand a single Category 1 hurricane. So what we had to go and do first? We had to go and fix that. Because can you imagine 20,000, 30,000 people being out of water for a prolonged period of time because of reservoir breakdown? And then we had not one of them had a generator, so that every time light and power, electricity gone off, water gone off too. So I'm not asking for, or I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I'm trying to show you that the volume of things that had to be done means that we couldn't do everything at once, but I'm absolutely clear with you that we must address the community and, by extension to that, the emergency recovery of St. Andrew as a matter of priority. But I will look for us to find the funding to do more stabilization across St. Andrew and St. Joseph, because that's the only way we're going to also reverse the decline in population that these two parishes have experienced. St. Andrew isn't quite as bad as St. Joseph was, but both are still of concern. And then, of course, across the country, look, and you hear me keep talking about it. I asked the registry today self, I's getting a little old nowadays, so you gotta give me a chance. For the deaths and births between 2000 and 2024. That's a simple metric, because I know that when I was Minister of Education, 4,200 people used to sit the common entrance. I know that this year 2,981 people sit the common entrance. And we have not sent home teachers, as I've said over and over. And I know, Peter, when we were at Darrell Jordan, the numbers there in January shocked me. And that is why we've been working to be able to see how we can also better align the number of teachers. Even though the teacher-pupil ratio has dropped to a ridiculously low number of 10 in 1, 1 in every 10, it's crazy. When I was there, it was like 1 in 20-something. But rather than send home the teachers, what we're trying to do is to work with teachers and to be able to have specialty skills fill the gaps and the areas in the education transformation that's coming. In the year 2000, across the entire country, there were 2,505 deaths in the year 2000. And last year, there were 3,287 deaths because it is an aging society. Let's come to births. In the year 2000, there were 3,804 persons born. Last year, 2024, take a guess. 1,993 people born in the country. This is a national issue. And that is why there's now also, apart from what we must do, because the natural pleasurable way is long term. But in addition to that, there has to be a reach out to Bajans, and that's why the new Immigration and Citizenship Bill seeks to extend to great-grandchildren of Bajans the right to have citizenship. Because the first body you want to start with is who? Your own. Then the second body is who? The people from where? The region. That more or less got the same mores, attitudes, etc. And then you want what? Skills and investment. So that there has to be a structured and measured approach. And why is this important? How many people in here under 40? Raise the hands. You don't gotta be so for sure. That's a badge of honor for somebody like me who turned 60 this year. I would like to raise my hand. The point I'm making is this, that your generation are going to have to worry, because if you don't have enough people building out the country, anybody who has done economics, what is a critical part of economics for growth? Labor, skills. So if the country is only producing 2,000 people on average, where are you going to get the range of skills necessary to keep the Scotland district alive, to keep the whole of Barbados alive, to do the hard work across every sector, social and economic, and the church and the NGOs? So this is an issue. We are not, by the way, the only country. There are a lot of countries in the world that are facing the predicament of an aging population with a declining population. And those numbers that I just gave you from the registry, and I'll speak about them again this week when I talk to the country, those are the things that keep us up at night, because we can't solve it just so. So I give you the residents of St. Andrew that we will address, as we started to do with the transport, we will address, and Sandy, since last we met, how many buses had come in earlier this year? The Chinese gave us how much? 35. And then we have another 35 buses to come by December, because as you know, Ms. Lowe, when you order, you have to be able to give them time. Nobody keeps product now waiting for you. You have to order, and then they build out according to the orders that are in. So by the end of December, we'll have 35 more, and then we'll look at the next stage and see whether that is adequate or if we have to go again, because remember, we still have a lot of privately owned PSVs too, and we're working with them to make sure that the Barbados gets ultimately a first world bus service. And the government is not going to stop until we get there. It may take a little while, but why? Because everybody has to play their role. And it's getting everybody to understand that all of us must work in lockstep in order to get this. So, thank you. I'm not sure for the gentleman on the parade, we can have discussions. I will tell you though, we no longer have the Knight and Dame of St. Andrew, we have the Freedom of Barbados. But I think on all other counts, you are absolutely correct. And I would be happy to come. Is the question of whether we can get the BDF and the others to agree that ultimately we do something a little differently, just as we brought the party monarch to the East Coast many years ago. And quite frankly, once we can get the infrastructure back into the area right, that is the kind of thing that is a global event, not just a local event, Bajans will enjoy themselves, but we broadcast to the world because there's no better backdrop than that ocean out there off the back of those hills. So let us continue to work together, but thank you for your ideas, and we go forward. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Oh, and as you go out, just two quick reminders. The MP is reminding me you have crabbing night on Saturday. I think I'll join that one because it seems extremely interesting. And as you wrap up the rest of this month for the ideas for, we gathering, I'll just say a plug next month. Please join us, St. James. We'll be having the ideas forum again. So enjoy your night, and thank you once again for coming out.